I'm going to be refuting Michael's statement that general education requirements in college are detrimental to students. He outlines 4 claims to try to support this argument. One being that most GEs in college are no different than high school classes and often do not further one's education within their field. The second being that GE requirements in college make college even more expensive. The third one being that GE requirements force students to stay in school for longer when they already are not guaranteed a job when graduating. And fourth, the reason that people have gone to college has changed. The first claim states that most GE courses in college are no different than those in high school. However, the curriculum for classes in high school is set forth by the states, and the curriculum in universities is set forth by the Board of Universities. This means that the class content will differ between high school and college, and as a result, you cannot be guaranteed that the content covered in high school will be the same covered in university. And I got that information from the California and other states' departments of education. His second claim is that GE requirements make college even more expensive. This is based on the assumption that more expensive necessarily means detrimental, when in the scope of this argument, the term detrimental could be stated as it's not helpful to their education, which in some cases, general education courses provide students with valuable knowledge and even exposure to some things that are outside of their field, making them a more well-rounded and capable person towards any sort of any uncomfortable situations. His third claim is that GE requirements force students to stay in school for longer when they're already not guaranteed a job in the first place. But for this argument, stating that GEs are the requirement that people stay in college for longer is discounting the existence of other major programs such as architecture and engineering, which tend to be much longer than other major programs, which would, by that same scope of logic, would mean that GEs fall into the same category as long major programs, and that they're both detrimental to a college student, when in reality, some people pick these majors because they believe that they're more in that person's field. And second part of that was that they're not guaranteed a job. Nobody is guaranteed a job regardless of their level of education when whether or not they've just graduated high school or if they've just graduated college. And his fourth point is that the reason that people have gone to college has changed. This cites an article on the Washington Post that states that people have stopped going to university for an education and more have gone to university to find a means to get a job. The source that was cited in this Washington Post article, however, shows statistical information that shows that up to 40% of students still go to college to gain an education. So claiming that the reason that people have gone to college has changed may not be true, because him stating that people have gone to college has changed, and then an article that says that 40% of people still go to college for the original reason of gaining education, it shows that there's a disconnect between the article that was cited and its source. So, and in conclusion, I think that general educations are beneficial to the college education. Thank you.
All right, structurally everything is in good shape. On the first point where you suggest where you challenge the point that there is no significant difference. This is the closest you come to citing a particular piece of evidence, and it's still pretty vague, suggesting that the curriculum is set by the state for high schools and by the university boards for universities, and this comes from a variety of state departments of education. Like I said, that's a little bit of an ambiguous citation, but I'm willing to give you credit for that. I think that that's probably true. It would probably help to have an example or two. I suspect that the history class that you take in high school in the 10th or 11th grade is substantially different from the GE classes that you would be taking at the university level for a variety of reasons, and some of those reasons could be outlined in your argument here. They might be more rigorous, they might go into different issues, certainly expectation about the quality of the work is going to be different. I think you're letting this slide a little bit too easily, and your argument, although it might be a practical argument, feels thin. On the second point, where you're talking about the cost issue, you just, there's no evidence here. You say, it's GE's valuable knowledge, exposure. I don't think those are bad arguments. I just think that they're underdeveloped a little bit. I mean, this is not, here's an easy question. How many people enter the university without a major? If you could find out what, the average college students and when they declare a major, that would be something that would lead you to the conclusion that really people need to explore a little bit. How many people change their major after they start? That happens pretty frequently also. How many people drop out because they discovered that the major that they chose isn't really something that they want to do after all? Those are the kinds of arguments I think would help make this point a little bit stronger. And you don't have any data on that, so it just feels a little bit thin. I think you've got the right claim, I just don't think there's any proof on this particular point. I think you're doing some conflating with the programs, the architecture program, the engineering program with additional GEs. I think that this is an equivocation issue that you're presenting here, and I don't think it's very clear that you explain what it all means. So that's problematic. I think you do have a legitimate point that says, look, no job's guaranteed to anybody when they get out. So if the goal is job training, they should go to a position that trains them for a specific job. There are plenty of places that do that sort of thing. I think that's maybe a good example of a hypothetical that would answer that point. And then the last point, you do have some information that you're referring to that says 40% still go for education. That's, I think, a good piece of information. And by the way, you ought to look and see what it is that employers are looking for in their employees. And the first 3 or 4 things that almost all employers list are not things that are specific about the job. They're specific about the kinds of stuff that you would learn in GE classes. They are clear writing, social skills, team building, collaboration, all that kind of stuff, which is all stuff that you do in those classes that aren't in your engineering or architecture major, but are in other disciplines. And I think that would be an easy way to respond to that point. All right, thank you.